Look, I got a new hairdo for COVID.
I know, like I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of short hair. It looks great on you.
I miss you, Mama.
Awesome.
I miss hugging you.
I know, virtual hug, pandemic hug.
So we took a break from pop pairings for a minute because of COVID, right? And we couldn't shoot, right? So we decided, we were trying to figure out how we could incorporate wine in Zoom. I don't know, there's just nothing happening in the world right now for us to talk about with wine. No topics to really talk about. We pondered that for a second. And then
that second was over.
And we figured out there is a lot of stuff going on in the world right now we won't talk about.
Pandemics. Protests. I love the P's that are going on.
It's a perfect pop pairing.
Totally.
Pandemics and protests. Right? The best way to talk is over a glass of wine.
Always.
We decided to incorporate what's happening in the world right now and wine. And wine. Always wine.
Always wine. Always wine.
Speaking of wine, we have to have our wine expert, Michael Brooks.
Absolutely.
Bed, Vine, Wine, and Spirits right here in Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. Mike, where you at? Where you at, Mike?
Well, I haven't seen. I know you've seen him.
Yeah,
right?
I've seen him. Where do you see him?
Where you at,
Mike? Where you at? Where you at? There you go.
How's everybody doing?
Wow.
Mike got the COVID beard.
I love that look.
I know. I love it too.
Thank you.
You look great.
Thanks for having me.
You look awesome.
Always. Always.
You two are beautiful as well.
Okay.
All right, I can't say it. Just want to hug you right now. So Mike, we're here. We figured it out, right? Now we're here. We're going to tell the people about the wines a wine you got for the summer. That's one of your favorites, right? So which wine did you choose for our topics of Black Lives Matter? And actually the topic is about racism, systemic racism in corporations.
Which
right?
I love the idea or the concept of, choosing a wine to fit the topic as opposed to choosing a wine to fit the food. I love that.
Yeah, I like that too. I think that's kind of dope, right? We always have our best conversations, Mike, right? Over wine.
Totally.
Absolutely. And the best type of wine definitely enhances conversations and overall connection with everybody as well too.
All right. So
how did you choose this wine?
So the wine I have today is called Morphus right here.
Oh, get close. Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. Okay. Tell us about the wine, a little bit about that one.
So this wine here is hold the bottle here like this.
Maybe should we bring our guest on now?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Okay. So we also have two guests. We're not just going to have one. We got people who work in this field. Mike used to work in pharmaceuticals, so he knows a lot about corporations. Right. We also have our guest, Mr. Lawrence Jennings, who's a friend of mine, and he's got over 30 years in HR experience. He's had leadership roles in a variety of profit and nonprofit organizations, Fortune 500 companies, and he lives right here in Brooklyn. So Lawrence, come on in. Join us.
We've got Lawrence. And we also have, come on in, Lawrence.
Woohoo! I don't have an interest like Mike, but...
Welcome. You don't have a what?
I said, I don't have an interest like Mike, but I'll work with it.
Okay. You look good. You look great.
Yeah, you look really great. We also have another guest who is a close friend of ours, Stan Studley, who has been in business for himself for 30 plus years, fierce interior designer, fierce individual. So he's also in the house. So come on in somewhere.
There he goes.
All right. Well, glad to meet you. Glad to see you. Glad to.
Great. I love the COVID beard.
Just got the COVID beard.
No, this isn't a COVID beard. This is a Methuselah beard. I'm just like, cut it off when the pandemic is over. I cut it all off. This is the first time in life that I've ever had this much hair. It's the first time in life that I've freed up hours in my day.
It looks great.
You guys look really good. It looks good. Everybody, you all look really wonderful.
Yeah.
So you know the topics: corporations, racism, all this lovey-dovey stuff towards Black Lives Matter now. But first, before we get into it, we got to talk about some wine.
Yeah, come on now, bring it.
All right, break it down.
Mike, it's on you.
This wine here is a natural pet nat. So pet nat is natural sparkling wine. Okay, this wine is 100% Merlot, and the Merlot grapes are grown in Long Island, in Norfolk, and then they're transported up to Maine, and they're made up in Maine, processed in Maine. So the company's based in Maine, and they source grapes from different regions. So this is a natural sparkling wine. What makes it natural sparkling is that they only use yeast that are native in the air. They don't add any yeast to the grapes once they process it, and they let it ferment in the bottle. So in the bottle, the bubbles and everything and the alcohol are made in the bottle, and when you open it for the first time, that's when the bubbles that build up from the yeast eating the sugar creates the gas in the bottle. So this is a very labor-intensive wine.
Wow.
And this wine is very limited, and this wine is very, very special. When you taste it, right? I got it in the glass right here. Does everyone have a glass of this?
Yes, we actually all have a bottle of Morphus, right? We all have a glass of bottle.
Let's all do a cheers. Is everybody?
Wait, I gotta pour mine. Hold up, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
So Mike said this wine is his summer wine. So you guys, this
wine, can I smell it?
Ooh, that smells yummy.
Wild strawberry.
Great.
I'm gonna give this a try.
Hey, Mike, let me ask you this. So how did you, all the wines, a whole bunch of wines, right? So what made you decide to? So here we are talking about racism.
Good.
Why this wine and not another wine?
Taste it first.
What?
Taste it first.
This is delicious.
That's why I chose it.
All right. It ain't deep, right?
Listen, this is very limited, and this is like the perfect wine for the summer. And so why not share this with people that are special to me? So, this wine would have been gone before you even know it, but I held some aside, held some back, and I got some more of it. But this is a special wine. And so I figured I picked this wine for this topic because we're going to be talking about something so sensitive. So I have something special.
Wow, I like
Interesting.
that. Interesting. Lawrence, did you try the wine?
I did try the wine, yeah. And actually, I was thinking, in terms of the pairing of the wine with the topic of racism in corporate America. This is a rosé, and the topic of racism in corporate America is something that's often looked at through rose-colored glasses. So here's to you, Mike, for what I think is pairing of
let's talk about it then. Let's talk about it. I love that. Yes. Wow. I like anyway, let's get into it. Okay. So after George Floyd was murdered, all these corporations started to recognize how, serious or how much they were lacking in diversifying, I guess, their corporations, their businesses, whatever. So I get an email from Bon Appetit, from its editor-in-chief, Adam Rappaport. It's a beautiful email. And I'm like, wow, this is so awesome. He's so, around June, I was like, that's great that they're going to start doing stories about Black businesses, Black restaurants in the neighborhood. 8 days later, dude stepped down. And I'm like, wait, what happened? Come to find out, Adam Rappaport posted a really derogatory picture of himself as a Puerto Rican, brown skin, little thin mustache with his wife, who's an artist, and called himself Papi Chulo. So I began to, and then I started seeing all these other people. I think Estee Lauder donated $500,000 to NAACP, Nike. Everybody's putting out, all this. We're a stand for Black Lives Matter and diversity, but their whole executive teams and the people who make the decisions are white. So it made me start to think, like, is this just another way that for them to shut us up, give us some money, shut us up, we're doing our part. I mean, Estee Lauder can afford to lose $500,000, right? No skin off their back. Nike can afford to lose whatever. It's not a big deal. But what's needed is Black people in those people, for people who want jobs. Not everybody wants a job, but for people who come out of school, want a job, Black people who are educated and can have those jobs aren't getting them. And that's where we need to see real diversity and real action. So I worked in corporate America years ago, before I became an actress. And I remember out of 30 people, there was one Black woman and me. I was a secretary. She was in an executive position, but one out of maybe 30 people. And when it got higher up, there were no Black people at all, right? So I want to talk about it. I want to talk about this racism, this systemic racism, not just in this country, but in corporate America. And your money's cute, but we want jobs. People need leadership roles in your corporations. So what do you guys say about that? Sandy, anything, whatever?
No, I'll probably say something that's a little incendiary.
Say it. I got to look that word up. Wait a minute.
Go for it.
You know, the fact of the matter is that if you bring money, you'll get money. And what is unfortunate is that Black people have had a legacy of doom rather than a legacy of growth as a result of the way we've been suppressed over the decades and the centuries. So when you think about Black wealth, it has always been underestimated and miscalculated. When you think of the collective Black experience as we spend money, we have power. Right. But very few corporations will actually go to that full spectrum of power and say, let's make sure that we satisfy these people, you know, make sure that there's some element of inclusion, make sure that all of the mechanisms of that group are running well as a result of us being in there, so we could always have bragging rights about what it is. Because let's not forget, we're in a capitalist society, and if you're not making money, you're not anything. Okay, so in many cases, it's not about just getting a job or being given a job. Yes, there are a lot of people who, if given the opportunity, they'll jump. They'll jump at the opportunity to get in, and they'll probably do double the work.
Right.
Okay, but in many cases, there's this miscalculation of what Black wealth and Black power really is. And as a result, there's been no need to fill these roles with Black people, when in fact you could deal with nepotism and all the other trappings that have basically resulted in corporations being what they are.
Okay. Anybody, Mike or Lawrence, want to jump in and respond to that?
I think Mike raises an excellent, well, not Mike, I'm sorry.
Stan, yeah. We can't see Stan's name.
Raises an excellent point. You know, it's not only about getting people into the organizations. It's also about retaining them and grooming them for positions of senior management. The
Absolutely.
Is where you run the risk of losing people. Most people don't stay in corporate America when they come in as diversity candidates, because they walk into an organization where they're managed, they work in a team of people that are not like them. So they end up washing out after a couple of years.
Right. That must be really
you know, in terms of the, you know, the issue of wealth, you know, let me just put a little perspective around what Stan just said. Right. If you take a look at the Fortune 500, okay, in the last 20 years, in the Fortune 500, only 18 Black Americans have been chief executive officers. Right. In 20 years. Right. That is less than 5%. Now, obviously, we make up a lot more than 5% of the population of the United States. If you take a look at the list of the top 10 organizations in the Fortune 500, the number 2 organization on that list is Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Okay. 3
years ago, Amazon was not even in the top 10. Mm-hmm. Now, we know why they're in the top 10 today. Everybody's sitting at home and they need something to do. They shop. Guess who delivers your packages? Amazon.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos is worth, I read today, like $170 billion or $1 trillion.
Amazon's net worth 3 years ago was roughly $175 billion a year. Today, it's $285 billion a year. That is probably the most astronomical growth revenue for a corporation in the last 40 or 50 years.
And do they have black people in executive positions? Like, are they hiring black people?
No. I mean, you know, like
black people are buying, because I buy from them.
Exactly. And so think about this, okay? If for 1 month, black people in this country decided not to shop or have anything delivered from Amazon.com.
There you have it, yeah.
What do you think would happen to their revenue? I'm not talking about, you know, a blackout of 1 day or 1 week. I'm just saying 1 month where no one purchased or had anything delivered from Amazon.com. That would be a serious hit to their revenue.
So which makes me think about the Montgomery bus boycotts. It didn't happen because we got this July 7th thing coming up now, this blackout July 7th. I think about the Montgomery bus. I was like, 1 day? We ain't gonna spend that. What's that gonna do? It's like, it reminds me of that Austin Powers movie where the first one where he's like, I'm going to hold the world ransom for $100,000.
Right.
They're like, what? $200,000. And it's like
what does that say where all the blacks disappear for the day? What is that? Is that day of absence? What is it?
No, I don't know.
All the black folks just like are gone.
Yeah, but see, you know, there's one thing I really have to like stress. You know, this time isn't even funny. Okay, because what's happening is when you take a look at healthcare and look at what's happening with black people in COVID, when you take a look at housing, you take a look at how much black wealth has been lost, starting from the depression or recession of 2008, 2007, 8, 9. When you just take a look at the position of black people in this economy, we're slipping and we're sliding.
Yeah.
And that's happening because nobody's taking a look at the collective might of the black community. We spend a lot of damn money, but we spend a lot of money on essentials, toilet paper, soap, food, stuff like that. I mean, we're not, you know, the rappers are buying the Ferraris and, you know, buying the big houses and all that kind of stuff. Right. You know, different high-end people are buying all these things, but we're an extreme minority in that area. Right. I'm not talking about them. Let's just put them aside for a second.
Just regular, everyday essentials.
Just everyday stuff. You know, black people carry a tremendous part of this society, okay? And we have to figure out some kind of way to basically make that known so that, yeah, there will be a certain amount of charity, no doubt about it. Right. Okay, but it's going to be people who just know better and say, we better think right about this thing so that we can just keep this audience, number one. And then secondly, we can actually progress without getting torn up, you know, because we didn't progress enough, you know, when we give it the opportunity.
So we want to send a message to these corporations and that our dollar is valuable. I think 1 day doesn't do it. The Montgomery boycotts lasted like a year. And
you know, it doesn't have to be that time, you know, because back then we didn't have the technology we have now. So things can move a lot faster. But there has to be a very solid feeling of loss when, in fact, when black people shut down and say, hey. And the bottom line is, it's best not to do it everywhere. Just target different groups. Right. Because when you target different groups and all the competitors are going to say, oh shit, you know, these people targeted, you know, these people, and the revenues went way down.
Yeah.
And they start figuring out, okay, what do we have to do to make sure that doesn't happen to us?
You mean like target a company like Amazon or a company like Adidas?
Yes, you know, whatever it is, you know, and think about it and just say, hey, this is the mission. This is why we selected this company, so nobody gets too angry. You know, but all I'm saying is it requires strategic thinking. And the unfortunate thing is right now we are all functioning as individuals we get together as a group, but we dissipate over time. And God forbid this COVID thing, you know, stops. You're basically not going to have people with time. They're distracted by just going to work and making money.
Right.
You know, so there's got to be a point.
That's one of the reasons why we wanted to do this show, to kind of talk about it and make it a conversation for people. Mike, you've been kind of quiet.
I've just been listening, but yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys are saying. I mean, I think really that it's a fundamental issue, and it's really boils down to, economics and resources. And, we have to find a way to gain power, gain leverage. Power is not given, it's taken.
There you go.
We have to, we're kidding ourselves if we think that you're going to get power through politics. We're not going to get power through politics. It's not, it doesn't work that way. It never has, it never will.
Right.
So we have to develop a code and figure out ways where we can gain leverage.
So what do you mean by that when you say, because I think what I'm hearing Lawrence and Stan say is economic leverage. Are you saying economic leverage?
I mean, leverage can be anything. Could be like, say, all of a sudden a organization wants to donate a bunch of money to, say, black neighborhoods for whatever, to do X, Y, and Z. And then we'd be like, okay, well, why how does this benefit us? And use that to get more and leverage to do other things. Like, we come together, our neighborhoods and our communities can't be taken advantage of by these corporations. It always has that. We have to form a collectiveness to band together and be like, no, you're not going to keep exploiting us. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's a fundamental issue for us. We have to stop letting ourselves be exploited.
Which kind of brings me to another point. I was talking to Charles, who's my fiance, and we were talking about the money being donated by all these corporations, the NAACP and what else. And he was talking about a Trojan horse. Like, yeah, it's all good until you get Minister Farrakhan to speak at Morehouse. And then it's like, whoa, we're not giving any more money now, So it's like, donating this money, but how much leverage do we have and what these, and how much money we're like, and what they're, and what's being given to a school, an agency like.
There's a little feedback going on.
Yeah, there's some feedback on. What I'm saying is that
I don't hear it, guys.
It's not it's a spontaneous type of thing, right? You have to find a way to gain advantage, but the way to gain advantage, everybody has to be on the same page. Like, for instance, I know people refer that we're capitalism, but we're not in capitalism. This is rigged market capitalism. We have a bunch of cartels that control the entire economy. People have to recognize that and accordingly. So we have to be honest with what's going on.
So not capitalism, but cartel.
We have to be honest as well too. Is that we're in a political system where we're not getting any representation. And it haven't been for a long time. So we have to be honest with ourselves and recognize what's going on and plan accordingly.
It sounds like an economic revolution to me,
Yeah, but this is, I think there's a very important part that we have to think about. Think about something like the NFL, the National Football League.
Right.
You have many teams that basically bring a sports entertainment thing to a whole bunch of people. Right. Or any other, element, be it racing, be it tennis, be it whatever. There's a whole bunch of different perspectives of the same thing. And I'm saying if black people are shown as a diverse people who have many needs, and the people who live in Florida are different than the people who live in Wyoming, or different than the people who live in California, and all the variants that go in between, if we basically show up with many tentacles like an octopus, okay, and just say, hey, this is what we're bringing, okay, this is what we expect, no, we don't want you to give us a place at the table. Take a place at the table.
Right.
Okay, and the only way that you could take a place at the table is to basically spread a lot among every black person a sense of obligation to just try to change something that's happened for centuries since we've been slaves, which has always been given short shrift. So I understand the corporations, I understand all this stuff, but I'm saying we have to now fight on their level, which means that we don't say us as black people and expect one thing. We have to speak about black people as a league that has many different tentacles and basically has many different things that have to be met. Right. Okay, and when you think of it that way, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of power in black power.
Absolutely.
Be very clear about that.
I don't think you realize how much power that we have. But
we're not a monolithic people, right? That's very clear. We're not monolithic people.
Right.
We sometimes, show up that way.
Right. Well, which brings me to another point. This is a great segue. That's a great thing that you said, because it was interesting to me that when we walk into a room, an environment filled with white people, we go, don't we all say, where the black people at? Right? We walk into a corporation or any place, I walk on set, and I'm like, there ain't nothing but white people. Where are the brown and black?
There ain't nothing but white people who are running the show.
Running the show. And then, to me, it's like, I know this is a silly question, but I'm going to say it. I know it's really dumb, but it's like, don't they see it too? Do they think we're so monolithic? Do they think we're so singular that we're not even missed? We're not even missed in these places.
But therein lies the problem.
Right. You know,
We have to make ourselves missed. If we are missed, then they'll say, "Oh, hey, where's the black people?"
Right. Your point, Sandy. Right. Right.
But, you know, I think when you're talking about wealth and economic power and the fact that we need to make ourselves, you know, missed and relevant, you know, if you take a look at corporations, you know, the CEO reports into a board of directors. And the board of directors is responsible for the performance of that organization economically, as well as, you know, all of the policy making, et cetera. But they also determine the compensation of the chief executive officer. And so they review that person based on a number of factors. One of the things that they don't review that person on is the diversity of the organization. And so they don't tie that person's compensation to the diversity initiatives in the company. If you hit them in their pocketbook a little more in terms of whether or not they're going to get a raise or a bonus that year, based on whether or not they made any changes in the organization around the subject of diversity, you see a little more change, but, you know, hell, not a lot. I mean, the board members are people from other corporations, just like the ones that the CEO of the company works on. So it's almost like a circle jerk of executive management.
Right.
And, you know, those people are responsible for the profitability of the company. That's their measure.
There's a disregard, or you said a lack of interest in diversity, period. There always has been, and Black Lives Matter, I looked at Nike's executives, Adidas, and all these people. I was reading an article in Market Week, and all these people, I'm gonna see if I can find it real quick. All these people who claim to be so committed to Black Lives Matter and diversity, all their executive board are all white. I mean, from Adidas to Nike to, gosh, let me pull that up. You guys talk. I'm gonna bring it up.
But they're not gonna spontaneously change just because we show up with protests.
Right. That's
there's a point where, you know, there has to be. I think that Black people have to really get together and show our strength, so that people say we are missed and we better include them because we are missed. And if we don't include them, we'll be losing a big piece of revenue.
Right.
That's right.
Okay. And until that happens, I'm not sure. We could see the same as affirmative action stuff that we saw back in the day, which diluted itself right back to where we are now.
Right.
You know, you can't legislate this stuff. You got to show power through the dollar. Yep. You know, and the bottom line is, you know, I think that Black people really have to talk among ourselves about how we do this. Because, I mean, the minute somebody gives us something, they can take it back.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. Exactly. And I'm just saying, you know, we have to show them, like, look, you are overlooking a couple of basic stats that mean a lot to you, and you better think. You know, and tell me if I'm dominating the discussion, but I've been really impressed by Procter & Gamble, for instance.
Why?
They were a major contributor to the Essence show. You know, that was the first online show that I've seen in a long time, ever, quite frankly. And they had very carefully laid out commercials. They had things that were sensitive to Black people. They were telling a story that says, yeah, you know, we are related to Blackness. Now, you know, it's not a Black company, but you see these people are like on your, you know, they're trying for your dollar. They recognize how you contribute to what it is that they produce. And I'm saying, as long as you basically, it could be showboating all day long, but just engage. Okay. And what I'm finding is that a lot of companies don't have anything to do with Black people. That nothing.
Right.
You know, because we really just haven't shown any value to them.
Right.
So I'm just saying that we could have some minor amount of value, but it's entirely possible to send a script of what it is that we're doing for that company and just soliciting their engagement. Okay, and if they don't deal with that, we just put that aside, keep moving, start going for the companies that basically relate very strongly to us, and start working on those companies that don't.
Right. There's
okay, but the bottom line is there's got to be a strategy. It's not about getting in the street, getting all hot and bothered, for like a month, 2 months. Think about Occupy Wall Street. That was a very strong movement.
Yeah.
And that bad boy fizzled.
Right.
It fizzled. You don't even know about it.
But this is what I'm saying. This is like we're talking here. There's got to be an economic plan to, at least in this area. There's many areas. This is just one area that we're talking about. This is just, there's prison reform. There's education. This is just
which is money.
Yeah. What's
all money.
What did you say?
All
what?
money, right?
Is that which is money? It's all money.
Yeah. But there's so many different areas where we need to see reformed. But in corporations, especially, I think economically, we have more say than we actually know. Nike, I just found that articles in Market Week. All Nike's executive leadership team is all white. But
that's most corporations.
I'm just calling them out because people need to know.
But they could know. But I'm saying, what's their incentive to just basically give us,
Wait, I just want to call them out. Spotify.
Don't use them. Don't buy them.
L'Oreal.
Right.
L'Oreal. I'm worth it. There ain't no black people aren't because they're not on your executive team.
But essentially, we could go down the line for every corporation in America and get exhausted.
Forgive me for being a cynic about the contribution of money, but a lot of these companies right now are throwing money at the problem. Okay, so we're going to give X amount of millions of dollars to this organization or that organization, but the money, they know right now that they're giving money into these organizations, and the organizations don't have strategies on how they're going to use those funds. And so all that's going to happen is they're going to turn it around and say, well, we gave them $50 million and look at what happened with the funding that we donated. Things didn't change, et cetera. So we got to be real careful about, the whole issue of accepting funding from these corporations and letting that be, the reason we let them off the hook.
Right, and that's the point, and that's the point we're trying to make, and that's one of the points that we're trying to make in having this conversation about money being taken from these corporations.
And try to understand where actually is all the money going. People donating to NAACP. What other organizations are they donating to, and where is that going?
Right.
Where does that money go? What does it actually do?
Right.
Can I just take us off topic for a minute?
Go ahead.
When I think about George Floyd's murder, that started something where now you're starting to see every little mishandling of a black person or minority person, black, brown person, starting to happen. And I'm just saying that the minute you start targeting one thing, it tends to open up a can of worms, I guess you can call it. And I'm just saying that, there's a hell of a lot more strategic balance that's needed on the black side. Before we start just stabbing at, people, and corporations, we have to really start talking about what it is that we want, how we're going to get it, and get a number of black people together to just keep the fire lit on the black side, to keep the pressure on.
Right.
Because the bottom line is, I still say, black strength is the dollar. We spend a lot of money. And I'm telling you, when you consider a portion of our income, a portion of what we spend versus our income, we spend way more.
Right.
Way more than most people, because we make way less.
Right.
Exactly.
So when you get down to it, if we even show to what degree, if we decide to pull back, what's going to happen to your corporation, believe me, they will put all their gurus and genies at how to keep us happy.
I think they're counting on us dumbing down or not strategically planning something around this particular conversation, which I hope we do. I don't know how it starts or where it starts, but the whole point of this overall is,
and it's very difficult, to do right now because, you know, as you guys were just alluding to, and we talked about this last night, you know, all of a sudden everybody's woke.
Yeah.
So
All of a sudden.
it doesn't matter. I mean, everybody is woke about everything. You turn on your TV, the first ad that pops up is Black Lives Matter. And they didn't matter yesterday. It matters today. You know, we talked about, you know, a couple of days ago, I think it was last week, 3 cartoon voice animators or characters came forward and said, we're no longer going to voice these African-American characters because and you know, there should be Black people voicing these characters.
Wow.
These are cartoon characters, and one of them was the guy who voices the character of Cleveland in the show. You ever seen Family Guy?
Yes, of course. Okay. All the time.
So now all of a sudden he's woke.
Wait, well, it's not even just him. It's like
he's woke. But he's been voicing the character of Cleveland
for years.
20 years. But now he's woke. So he's woke, but he's sleeping on a mattress full of cash that he made from voicing the character of Cleveland.
Right.
Meanwhile, a year ago, everybody was up in arms because Disney wanted to make a Black character, Black actress play the role of the Little Mermaid.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And she's not even human.
It's a cartoon, people.
She's a fish.
It's a cartoon.
She even play fish, let alone humans. Right. Everybody's woke. So, you know, you got to be really skeptical.
So that's part of what we're saying is that
not fall for the okie doke.
Like all of a sudden you got woke. Like you didn't see it. That's why it's like, what? You got white people playing Black people, and
I know, but this is it's so systematic. It's very much like the Me Too movement, right? So, right, where folks are losing jobs and being fired, and some of it is warranted, and a lot of it isn't warranted. It's very similar to that. It's very systematic, and so how do we, you know, where do we move from there?
This is deep. This is a really good conversation. I think
what I would say is this is an opportunity as well too. So this is an opportunity that we need to take advantage of, regardless of how corporatized the movement is and stuff like that. We can take this as an opportunity. You know, we have to come together and we have to gain leverage.
Right.
Well, let me just say that.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Stan.
Okay, one of the things, you know, I left corporate America back in around 1981. Okay, because one of the things that I recognized is that I couldn't grow there, especially back then. There was just a different climate going on, and I decided to become an entrepreneur. And one of the things about entrepreneurial stuff is I worked way harder than I would have ever worked in corporate America. I'd have been a star in corporate America, and I'd have probably been complacent, fat, and everything else. You know, but the bottom line is there is a need to get people to understand that planning is really what makes things work. As an interior designer, I have to, at every juncture, at every project that I deal with, I have to deliver a product that people are proud to have paid for.
Right.
Okay, and Black lives, Blacks against corporations, Blacks against policy of the United States, Blacks in the world have to do the same thing. We can't look for one nirvana utopian experience.
Right.
We have to look for it. We have to take opportunity as we could take it, and we have to just start hitting everybody where it hurts, where they just understand you cannot ignore what we do. You cannot ignore what we bring.
Right.
Okay, you know, and again, that's strategy. So again, you know, all of us, I mean, I'm an older guy. I'm probably older than all you guys. You know, I'm 67 years old, and the bottom line is I've seen this shit before. You know, and the bottom line that I see is that we all get comfortable because we become wary of what it takes to keep the foot on the gas.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You know, and the bottom line is corporations do not get wary from keeping their foot. They keep their foot on the gas. They're going to make profit based on the basic profit motive and profit deal that they have. And Black people have to be brought to the point where we communicate with among ourselves, almost as a corporation. Okay, and we basically present the many tentacles of this corporation and affect everybody so that we can just have the seat at the table. And it will be a seat that will be gladly given if, in fact, we show value.
So I just want to say this. Mike, you were going to say something?
No, I'm agreeing to everything he says.
Okay. So
we got to get our seat at the table.
I was going to say this in closing, because we said we were going to do an hour, and this is such a great conversation. It's so juicy, and we're talking about so many great things. One of the things that Lawrence had brought up was, I think you brought this up, Lawrence. I don't want to say you did, but in his corporation, having a diversity department that specifically focuses on the hiring, or maybe I read that, but, and also disclosing diversity reports. Like not every corporation should have diversity reports, public diversity reports. But what do you think about having? Okay, y'all even. I know this is a bad question because I know. Yeah, everybody's like, yeah, that's shit. No.
Let me just make a couple of observations, a couple of comments.
Wait, I just want to say this while we're talking. I had some smoked salmon to go with this rosé, and I'm gonna have it right now. This is really good. You know, I had to sneak some food in here.
I know you did.
So I think you got me beat by maybe a year. So I'm 65. And I'll turn 66 in October. So we both kind of
We're close. We're close.
we close.
Y'all look good.
I look great.
Y'all look good.
And so I came up through that whole affirmative action, arena, not only in terms of coming out of college and going into executive training programs, back in the 70s, but also in terms of going into human resources around that time. And, looking at the issue of affirmative action, which is really a lot of crap. But what's happening now is, Sally, you were told, what was the issue you were raising a few minutes ago?
Is that like having in these corporations have diversity program, like focusing totally.
Which is okay, and the point that I was gonna make is throughout my entire career in HR, and I've been in the field now.
I'm sorry, let me just say this: when I say diversity, I mean Black and brown people. I just want to be real.
Right. Yeah.
That's
I've been in the field now for over 30 years, and I made a conscious decision 15 years ago to leave for-profit and take the position at the Brooklyn Public Library, which is a not-for-profit organization, because as far as I'm concerned, the mission of the Brooklyn Public Library was better suited to my own personal goals. But one role that I have always stayed away from in the corporate arena was that position of Chief Diversity Officer. Because the position has no teeth. And it's the one role in the organization where when they want to look at, well, how many people of color do you have working in the company today? So we'll ask the Chief Diversity Officer, and then they look at that person and say, why haven't things changed? Well, it's not that person's responsibility to change the culture. The culture has to change from the chief executive and the board of directors on down. But, all organizations have to provide reports, to the federal government about their EEO numbers. How many women? How many men?
They get money.
Well, that's a given.
Okay, so I think the only solution is Black Lives Matter, corporations, some sort of, as you guys were saying, some strategic plan that says we're no longer going to spend money at Nike or Adidas if you don't put Black and brown people in leadership positions or executive, the people that make the decisions, right? We're I'm gonna, okay, one last thing, and I'm gonna tie it up, last final words. I read an article, the Beyonce walked into a particular speaker company, and they were pitching what they were gonna do with their brand, right? And it was a bunch of white people. And Beyonce just got up and walked out. I don't know if it's true or not, so I'm not mentioning the brand. But she got up and walked out, and she's like, and they were like, what's the matter? She's like, there's nobody in this room that represents me. And she left, and now she went to Adidas, I guess. But so I'm hearing you guys, and I think what I'm hearing is that we need a plan, a plan that says we're not spending money, a strategic plan that says we're not spending money in your businesses until things change. Forget the fact that you're giving this money. We want to see change. We want to see more Black and brown people in leadership positions in your companies.
Right. And, you know, Stan probably will remember this. And Sally, we talked about it last night, but back in, I think it was 1969, 1970, there was a film that came out called Cut Me Slow.
Yes, of course.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And so, and Stan...
Probably not the only ones that were remember this.
The premise of the film was, what would happen if overnight the board, management, and leadership team of a major advertising company became all Black? And there's an excellent scene in the film where the boardroom chairs turn and all of the people...
Oh no!
Oh, don't tell me we lost you.
Oh, what happened?
The movie is great, and it's a satire.
Oh, there we go.
In a way, that's kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay,
you know, I tell
you guys have final thoughts, final things that you want to say? Right?
I'll be the last one.
Okay, you'll be the last one. Okay, Mike. Any final words? Mike, you there?
I mean, I think we all pretty much agree on what has to happen. Is
okay, good. Yes.
We have to be organized. You know, we're being centrally planned against, so we have to centrally plan against them, and we have to, you know, gain an advantage and use it to benefit ourselves and you know, things like what the example you gave, what Beyonce did and stuff like that. I mean, more stuff like that has to happen, but also has to be unified, and we have to make sure that we extract tangibles. Right. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I think there has to be a consistent, ongoing conversations, just like we're having.
Like conversations in action,
Absolutely, and strategy.
Yes.
You know, I think, you know, for me, this has been an excellent conversation, and I really enjoyed the views and experiences of the people on this Zoom meeting. But one of the things that I would just add to the dilemma, so to speak, is the sense of urgency based on what the COVID pandemic has done to the African American community in terms of healthcare, employment. I mean, if you look at the numbers of jobs lost, I mean, yes, there's 1 in 6 people in the country are unemployed right now, but the vast majority of them are people of color. And the jobs that are gone forever and the inability to find new jobs, especially for people of color and people, let's face it, if we, you know, I don't know about, you know, some of you guys, the ladies are a lot younger than Stan and I, but if we were out there in corporate America looking for jobs at the age of 65, you know, the chances of finding employment are like slim to none.
Forget about it.
You know, forget about it.
You got it.
So, you know, there's a real sense of urgency here as well.
Not to mention that people of color are dying.
I mean, look at what happened in the inner city here in Brooklyn. Okay, the school system has been shut down for several months. There is no telling how far behind those kids. They already were.
Right.
And now how much farther behind are they because they haven't been in school for 3-4 months, and who knows what's going to happen in September.
Yeah.
There's no plan to recover from that.
In our communities, no one's really, because our schools, the education in Black schools suck anyway, but to have this happen is even worse. Stan, what would you have to say?
Well, I just want to say that behind every good renaissance is times of extreme turmoil. And I believe that we are in a time of extreme turmoil. We're seeing the stock market not representing the average American. We're seeing Black people being creamed by this economy and by the nature of this pandemic. We're taking a look at educational opportunities just not going out freely and openly as they should. And this is static on so many different levels. And when I think about America as this extremely powerful, population low, we're 4% of the world's population, land rich, everybody has a place to go and stay. Why do we have a homeless problem like this? Why do we have all of these things that just are wrong? That's because everybody has gotten to the point where they are not the United States of America. Everybody's getting their own and they're running with it.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that at the same time that Black is important, I've had like a unique growth experience where I've always just had ethnic diversity within my life. So I've never gone to the situation of being totally Black all the time. I am a representative of Blackness. I'm proud to be Black. I love my Blackness. And every time I go out, I show people exactly why they should think Black, be about Black, and relate to Black. But at the same time, I recognize there are not enough Black people to have voted Obama into office. There's a whole lot of people who can relate to common sense and reason, and they basically will do the right thing. So all Black people have to do is not be, there has to be an angry component, no doubt. Right. But there's so much more about being a reasonable component so you can bring people along. You need allies. We need allies to do everything that we want to do. And there's a lot of well-thinking, rational, great folks who are not Black, who would basically side with the right thing and deal with us no matter what. Right. So I just say, in the name of trying to build a renaissance, that we spend time not only taking care of what we need to do in the short term, but also think about the ideals of how we are probably the messengers of progress in a society. Because Black people do everything. Yes. When you think about everything that's meaningful in American life, be it music, be it the culture, be it the essential workers, you name it, Black people are there.
Right, nurses.
Nurses, I mean, athletes, actors, you name it. I mean, it is just Black people everywhere. Yeah. But we don't get the power that we need to get because we're all functioning individually. Right. We got to function. There has to be some respect for the collective vision, so that we can power up and go and hit people where they recognize if they're not with us just naturally, they're going to be with us because it's a matter of common sense.
Right. Okay, I love that.
I love that too.
Well, that was great. That was a wonderful conversation, guys. Thanks for our first Zoom pop pairings, wine,
pandemic, racism.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I'm flying on this wine. So, okay, Mike. Very good suggestion.
Thank you, Morphos, for this wonderful wine, and it pairs well with smoked salmon. I must say.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
All right, so Lawrence and Stan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
And Lawrence, great guest. Enjoy your wine.
Awesome guest.
Enjoy your wine. Okay.
All right now.
If you're a guest, you get a bottle of wine. Just saying. All right, guys. I'll see you later.
Okay, we're gonna sign out.
Thank you.
Bye.
At this point, you guys can turn off the video and mute Lawrence and Stan, because I'll edit that later. Cool. Mike, thank you for the wine, my dear.
Yeah, the wine is dope.
I'm glad you guys liked it. I'm glad you liked it.
It's really, really good.
We'll see you for the next show.
Cool.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
All right, wait, let me just say this. Bedvine Wine and Spirits. Bedvine Wine and Spirits on Putnam and Thompson. You can call, right? People have to call first. They're going to order wine or anything. This wine is
on the app, the website or the app. It's best to order through the website or the app. Yes.
But you are open. People are coming in with masks, of course.
Well, we're not people outside. We have curbside pickup and delivery.
Right. And if you don't know what kind of wine you might like, Mike's like, I always do this because he just knows the right wine. He's just great. So you can.
He's a remarkable curator.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Mike. So we'll see you next time.
All right, take care.
Cool. That was fun.
That was great.
I'm a little tipsy.
No, I'm a little tipsy too. Well, a little bit. Love Lawrence. Love. It's great.
Yeah. I hope people see this and look at it, not just for the conversation, but strategically what needs to be done next so we can affect some real change. These companies need to be seriously diversifying their leadership positions.
Right. Not only that, right. We should all be everyone should be having these kinds of conversations, actually. You can do your own Zoom and have these kinds of conversations to start to strategize. It makes a lot of sense right now.
Start talking about it, right?
Start talking about it, yeah. And then start doing, call to action, as you say, right?
Right. Yeah, get into action, not just conversation, but get into action. Anyway, this was awesome. You're the best.
Love you.
Love you too.
Love top pairings. Great idea. Great new format.
To the next topic. Next topic and wine. Next topic and wine. All right.
Hi, sweetheart.
That was good. I love all that conversation. Right?
Yeah, it was dope guess. Perfect guess.
Right.
No, dope guess. Great flow.
Right.